Hi, my name is Jake, and I am a bookish drummer. So at the very end of July, I decided to make a book haul video where I showed all of the books that I bought in the month of July, which was a lot. It was like 16 books, and a lot of them were newer books, like books that I paid almost full price for, which is very new to me because most of the time I'm used to going to thrift stores and used bookstores and getting like 20 books for like 20 bucks sometimes. But all of these books were a little pricey and just, I'm not used to spending that kind of money on books. So I decided to put myself on a book buying ban. And it went well for like the first couple of weeks, but then it got to the point where like I would go on Amazon and like I'd put something in my cart and I was just like inches away from just hitting the buy button. I was like, no, I can't do it. I can't do it. But then eventually I just caved in and I was like, what am I doing here? Like, I'm a booktuber. I'm going to buy books. Like, that's what I'm going to do. And I ended up buying a lot of books. And then just today, before I planned on filming this video, I ended up going to my local used bookstore and I bought a pretty decent amount of books. So this is my August book haul, and July had 16 books, August has 19 books. So I started off August knowing that I was going to buy a few books. Two of these were pre-orders, so technically I bought them before August, so I already knew that I was getting these. One of them is Getaway by Zoe Stage. She's one of my favorite horror writers. She's the author of Baby Teeth in Wonderland, and I'm currently just a few chapters in, and I'm already really enjoying this. So I already knew I was going to get this, so I don't count that. Also, of course, being a constant reader, I knew I was going to get Stephen King's new book, Billy Summers. I love this book. I gave it 4.5 stars. I have a review for it on my channel if you're interested. And obviously I was going to buy this. I pre-ordered it a while ago. Doesn't count. And then I have a Book of the Month Club subscription. So I knew I was going to at least get one book. And normally I only get one book, maybe two books if I see two that are like really enticing. But I kind of cheated because I knew I was going to be putting myself on a book buying ban. I went ahead and got 3 books, which it's just ridiculous. But got Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. And I don't know too much about it. All I know is that it's, I think it's 2 fathers and their sons were gay, but they were murdered. And they have to like band together to like get revenge. I think it's that kind of story. So I'm pretty interested in it and I've heard really good things about it. Also, I got Sherry Lapina's new book, Not a Happy Family. She wrote a book a while ago that I really enjoy called The Couple Next Door, which is like the fastest I've ever read a book. It's one of the best thrillers that I've ever read. And so I've been picking up a lot of her books. None of them have come close to that book, but they're all still pretty entertaining in their own way. So I have high hopes for this. And then I also got a very short book, by Susanna Clark, and it's called Piranesi. I don't really know how to pronounce it. But I know that a good friend of mine on BookTube, Joanna, she really liked this book. And a lot of people have really enjoyed this book. I tried to read her famous book, I think it's Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. I DNF'd that book like halfway through it, but this book, like I said, it's super short, so... And I did enjoy the writing style. It was just very boring and tedious, and it just seemed overly long. But with this book, it's only like a couple hundred pages, so I think I'm going to enjoy it, and I'm going to try to read it in September. And if you've watched my channel, you probably know that I'm more of a fan of paperbacks versus hardcovers. So whenever I buy like a brand new book from an author that I really love, eventually I'm going to replace it and get the paperback. And that's what I did with these two books. Invisible Girl by Lisa Jewell and If It Bleeds by Stephen King. Got the paperback copies, and I just brought my hardcovers to the local used bookstore and got store credit for those. So now I have these two lovely books. Also, I decided to pick up a few horror novels, and one of them is The Goners, which is a pretty much like a horror novella. I think it's about a serial killer. I heard Leslie from The Nerdy Narrative talk about this book, and she apparently loved it. So I'm hoping to love it as well. And I bought Intercepts, which I saw, it was recommended to me on Amazon. So I was like, okay, I'll give it a shot. I honestly don't know what it's about. I haven't even read anything about it. I just think the cover is pretty interesting. So I'm gonna maybe read it in October, spooky season, and see what it's all about. And then Leslie from The Nerdy Narrative and Evie from She Was Only Evie, they've kind of indoctrinated me into the world of Stephen Graham Jones, and I've been collecting a lot of his books. And one of them that I found on Amazon, brand new for really cheap, it was like $7. So I was like, hell yeah. Zombie Bake Off. There we go. Zombie Bake Off. I'm sure his books are always, even if I don't love them, they're always very weird, and like I know going into his books that I'm going to read something that I've never read before, and I can almost guarantee the same with this book. I mean, this book, it sounds really fun, so we'll see. I'm really loving Stephen Graham Jones. I just came back from my local used bookstore, and these are the books that I bought. All these lovely books. So we're going to go through them here. Speaking of Evie from She Was Only Evie, one of her favorite authors is Jane Austen, and I found an old copy of Mansfield Park, which I thought was her favorite, but she said it was Persuasion, so I think this is her second favorite. Either way, I've never really tried reading Jane Austen before, so I will eventually pick this up. Maybe. Who knows? And then I also found a few Ray Bradbury books, which I already own these two books, but whenever I see them, I just pick them up anyway, because they're a little harder to find, but got like a, pretty copy of The Illustrated Man by Ray Bradbury. Top 5 book for me, probably, if not top 10. Probably my favorite short story collection. I really love the cover because you can kind of see like all of the different stories that are like in the book on the cover, and I really enjoy that about it. And also Green Shadow's White Whale, which I already have this exact copy, so now I just have 2 copies. And I'll be honest, I'm not really sure what this is about. Well, I'm going to have to read it and find out. I also found a really cool book, which is Mr. Shivers by Robert Jackson Bennett. And for anyone who's a fantasy fan, they'll recognize that name as the author of Foundryside and City of Stairs, the Divine Cities trilogy. Apparently, he was a horror writer before he wrote those fantasy series. So I'm very interested in reading his take on the horror genre. And it makes sense because if you read City of Stairs, there's definitely some scary moments in that book. So it makes perfect sense that he was a horror writer. So I'm really interested in trying this. This is probably another book I'll try to throw in during October because, and again, I have no idea what this is about. I just bought it because of Robert Jackson Bennett. I also want to try to read more short stories by authors that I've never really read before, and I couldn't really find too many at my local used bookstore, But I did find an interesting book, Tales of the Unexpected by Roald Dahl. Now, as a kid, I've never actually read any Roald Dahl, even though I've watched a few of the movies that are based on his books, like James and the Giant Peach was great, and Matilda. So I'm familiar with a lot of them, but I'm really interested to see what his short stories are like. Are these for kids? Are these for adults? I honestly have no idea. But I'm going to read it and find out eventually, and I will let y'all know. And this next book is a King book that I honestly don't need. I honestly didn't want to buy it, but I am a Stephen King collector, so I did find it, and I was like, well, why not? I'm buying all this other crap. Blockade Billy. I'm not a huge fan of baseball. I'm not a huge fan of Stephen King writing about baseball, but it was relatively cheap, and now I can just put it on my shelf and forget that I ever bought it. Speaking of Stephen King, I found this old-looking hardback called The Horror Hall of Fame, and it's got short stories by a bunch of different horror writers. Ray Bradbury, which he's sci-fi horror. He's kind of all over the place, but that's cool. And then Stephen King has his own story, but I'm more interested in the stories by authors that I've never heard of before, and I'm hoping that a lot of these turn out to be good. But again, I have no idea. Just kind of picked it up on a whim, so probably another one that I would want to read in October. Maybe not all of it, but I'll dip my toes into it in spooky season. Speaking of spooky season, I found this book, The Ritual, and I'm pretty sure there's a movie on Shudder that's based on this book. And I don't think I've seen it, so I want to read the book and then watch the movie and see how it compares. But the movie is supposed to be pretty scary, pretty good. Yeah. And normally I don't buy hardcovers, but the local used bookstore had this deal where you can buy a hardback copy for 50% off, and then the next hardback is free. So I ended up getting like 4 hardcovers for like very cheap. And I found this book, which I just really love the cover. Like, I have no idea if it's going to be good or not, but like I love like the pinkish purple and then like the black and the shadow. I think that looks really cool. I have no idea what this book is about, but it was in the horror section, so might be good. I don't know. And then the last book I found again, I have no idea what this book is about, but it's a really cool cover called It Devours. But the one thing that caught my mind instantly was the sprayed edges, which is purple. I don't own a book with sprayed edges, so this is pretty cool. Like, again, and then look at the inside. You got like teeth on the cover, or on the inside, I mean. And again, no idea what this book is about, but I got a lot of these hardcovers for free, essentially. So, if anything, it's just a cool book to own, because like I love the yellow and the purple. It's a cool cover, Full book. I think that's it. So I just recounted, that's 20 books, not 19. So I bought 20 books in the month of August when I told myself that I wanted to put myself on a book buying ban. Well, shit. Oh well, at least a lot of these books I got from the used bookstore. Like, I think it was like 12 books for like less than $30, so I'm happy with that. And then as far as the other books, like I said, the Stephen King book, I knew I was going to buy. The Zoe Stage book, I knew I was going to buy. Got a few more Book of the Month Club picks than I normally do, but whatever. But yeah, those are all of the books that I purchased in the month of August. Let me know if you guys are interested in reading any of these, or if you've already read them, please let me know what you thought of them down in the comments below. Also, I just figured out what Voxer is, and it's like a cool like walkie-talkie app on your phone, and like you can like just type, you can either like type with your friends or you can like send them like a voice chat, which I think is really cool, and I think I'm going to start utilizing that more in buddy reads. So if anyone's on Voxer, hit me up or let me know, and if we're ever in a buddy read together, that'd be a fun way to interact with each other. So there's that as well. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to my channel. Thank you so much for watching and have a terrific day. Really? You went out and bought even more books?
You bet your sweet bippy I did.